everybody, welcome back to another Richard's Tech Tutorials. This is just a small follow-on video from the episode 1 video that I did earlier on today around creating a skill using ServiceNow Skill Kit. Now in that video I spoke about how we could take the UI action that gets generated as part of building the script, so this UI action script here, and then turning that into a workflow. So what I've done here is I've actually built that on my system. So if I just bring in the original script, so this was the original script. I've named it UI.js, so it just formats the colors nicely for us, and you can see it was just creating the payload. So we're going to make some changes up here because obviously we won't have current as the record in here, so the rest is going to remain the same, and then we're going to do some work down here just to adjust this and also output some stuff to log just so that we can debug it as we go along. So if I just move that out of the way, what we're going to do is if we go to our flow, so I've created one here, and on this flow I've got it to when the record is updated and the query type is blank. So in other words, we haven't processed it and the query itself changes. So the idea being is it will go from being blank to having something in it. So that was just the idea. We could use some other criteria to start this. That's just for the sake of this test. So in here, I've created a number of flow variables. So I've created one for the response that comes back, that we process after we extract the data from the JSON file that comes back. Record ID, query type, and what we're going to do is we're going to take the JSON that comes back from the LLM, from the Generative AI, and then what we're going to do is going to split it up. Now I could have done all of this in one single script, but I wanted to actually break it up slightly so that when we run it we can see what happens at stages along the way. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to set the record ID, and that's just simply going to be the sys ID of the inbound record, so from the client query record that we've attached this skill to. Now again, I don't have to do that, but I like to do these things just so I can see the values that are coming through. Then what we're going to do is, now I created, as you can see here, a variable, a flow variable called JSON response, and I've set it to type JSON. The reason I've done that is because we're going to parse the output that comes back, and I just then want to store that in its object form in a variable, so that I can just reference it much more easily. So what we're going to do is we're going to expand down that script. Now you'll see some changes that have gone here. So what I'm going to do is, instead of me trying to walk you through this rather small window, I'm going to show you the actual output in text form. So if I just walk you through, so this was the original and this is the new one. So some small changes, like for example fd_data flowvar.recordID, because that was the record ID variable that we have here. I'm using that to pass the sys_id into the client query payload that we want within our request. The request information is staying all the same. Some small changes, I'm using gsinfo to pass the just literally to stringify this part that gets created, just to make sure that I'm formatting it correctly and it's all working fine. So we're going to pass that through as before, and then I'm going to output info. Now I could remove these later, but it was just while I was doing some testing. The response that comes back from the LLM, and then what we're going to do is, you'll see the code's very similar to before, but we're not doing all of the steps. So we've taken if I go back to the UI action, you can see here we've parsed the response, value response, and then we've parsed the model output that we wanted from the LLM, so the data structure that comes back. And then from there I'm literally storing that. So as you can see here, JSON.parse the model output. So I want to keep that model output JSON that comes back, and I'm going to store that in that JSON response variable, because obviously I'm returning that as part of the script. So from this script I'm just returning I'm parsing that string that we got, so it turns it into a proper JSON object. And then what we're going to do is we're going to format the response and the query type, and again they're very simple scripts. We're just literally going fd_data flowvar JSON response.answer, and then on this one it's JSON response.classification, because obviously I've kept that output in JSON format, so it makes it nice and easy to do that here. Now again, I could do this much simpler, but I just wanted to show how this is going to work. So, and then literally what I'm doing is I'm updating the record. So we're going to do like we did within that UI. Instead of using obviously glide, we're just going to use this flow action to update that record. So if I just come back here and let's just clear these particular things out, let's set that to none and hit let's just update that, there we go. So that's now empty. Now we're going to test the flow. So what we're going to do is we're going to run a test, and we're going to obviously do it on query 1. We're going to run the test, and obviously then that's going to process that flow for us, and then we can look at the output that we get. So as we can see here, you know, I can see the sysID, and then from there I can see that here's the answer that came back, and you can see from this I can see the values that we're getting from the system. So I can now look at the various different runtimes, so I can see its information, so it's now leading AI powered digital workflow, and obviously I'm updating the record. But now if I go back and have a look, you can see, there we go, there's our text form, and it's been done for us, and I didn't need this UI action that we've seen here. Now obviously the next step on doing this, now that flow does work, I can kick that off from within here, it's active at the moment, but the next step that we'd want to do with this is maybe build out a custom action, so that we could pass in the just maybe the name of the skill, so it would then go and capture those IDs. Remember the IDs that we had from here, so for it to go and figure out what the capability ID and the skill configuration is, and maybe then add those in and build all of this data structure in an action, so that we can just do that for the different skills we want to have on this particular application. Well, hopefully that's been useful. I just wanted to give you this quick update on this particular one, because I did mention it in episode 1 earlier on today. So I'll release this again. If you found this useful, please like. If you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one where we run through some more of this stuff. Great. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.